My name is Hermann Djoumessi, social media, blockchain, and big data consultant. This podcast is a bite-sized summary of a potential conversation with Satoshi Nakamoto's seminal white paper, Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. The goal of this podcast is to establish the many sources and resources necessary to create, deploy, and optimize blockchain technology ecosystem in order to establish a Bitcoin or blockchain standard for businesses and organizations in the 21st century. Satoshi's Corner, Season 1, Episode 6. Previously on Satoshi's Corner. First, let's do the traditional thing and wish you all, Satoshi's Corner listeners, a better 2021 year than 2020 ever was. Meow, meow, cat, cat. This is a subliminal message to the all-seeing algorithm on social media. First, we learned about transaction on the Bitcoin Global Network, or #BGN, then timestamp server, and to finish with proof of work. The idea, of course, of implementing a distributed timestamp server on a peer-to-peer basis required, of course, the use of a proof of work system similar to Adams-back Hashcash. For our timestamp network, we will implement the proof of work by incrementing a nonce in the block until a value is found that gives the block hash the required 0 bits. Once the CPU effort has been expended to make it satisfy the proof of work, the block cannot be changed without redoing the entire work. As later blocks are chained after it, the work to change the block will include redoing all the block after it. The proof of work also solved the problem of determining representation in majority decision making. What does that mean? If the majority were based on a one IP address, one vote, it could be subverted by anyone able to allocate many IPs. Proof of work is essentially one CPU, one vote. And of course, the majority decision is represented by the longest chain, which has the greatest proof of work effort invested in it. As a result, if a majority of CPU power is controlled by honest nodes, the honest chain will grow the fastest and outpace any competing chain. To modify a passed block, an attacker would have to redo the proof of work of the block and all blocks after it, and then catch up with and surpass the work of the honest nodes. And as a consequence, the probability of a slower attacker catching up diminishes exponentially as subsequent blocks are added. If 2020 was an annus horribilis, or a bad year for most organic beings online, the Bitcoin Global Network enjoyed record trading, with its value currently at $31,000. As orange-pilled and predicted by Max Kaiser, Bitcoin maximalist supreme leader, and its glamorous sidekick, Stacy Herbert, cypher-punk lovey. What a duo. Today, we will carry on exploring a strange superpower attributed to the Bitcoin Global Network. We're going to call it Enter the Network Effect. Satoshi's Corner, Season 1, Episode 6. Network. The steps to run the network are as follows. Number 1, new transactions are broadcast to all nodes. Number 2, each node collects new transaction into a block. Number 3, each node works on finding a difficult proof of work for its block. Number 4, when a node finds a proof of work, it broadcasts the block to all nodes. Number 5, nodes accept the block only if all transactions in it are valid and not already spent. Number 6, nodes express their acceptance of the block by working on creating the next block in the chain using the hash of the accepted block as the previous hash. Nodes always consider the longest chain to be the correct one and will keep working on extending it. If two nodes broadcast different versions of the next block simultaneously, some nodes may receive one or the other first, one on the other block, right? In that case, they work on the first one they received, but save the other branch in case it becomes longer. The tie will of course be broken when the next proof of work is found and one branch becomes longer. The nodes that were working on the other branch will then switch to the longer one. New transaction broadcasts do not necessarily need to reach all nodes. As long as they reach many nodes, they will get into a block before long. Block broadcasts are also tolerant of dropped messages. If a node does not receive a block, it will request it when it receives the next block and realizes it missed one. Another very important concept that comes with proof of work is the fact that since we're talking about network, and we're going to have to consider obviously a software powered setup here, but on top of that you will have to consider also hardware, right? How many machines do you have on that network? And there is an important aspect that is mentioned onto the white paper as per the Satoshi protocol. To compensate for increasing hardware speed and varying interest in running nodes over time, the proof of work difficulty is determined by a moving average targeting an average number of blocks per hour. If they are generated too fast, the difficulty of the proof of work will definitely increase. So the bigger the network, the harder the problem to solve as far as the proof of work is concerned. And that's part of what we call the network effect. We are done reading the white paper as per the Satoshi protocol for now. We'll delve into the 2021 electronic-based consensus on search engine result page, or SERP, as well as search engine answer page, or SEAP. It's basically information from Google, Google Scholar, Alexa, Siri, Quant, and many others. Randomized search, of course. Let's go. Hashcash is a proof-of-work algorithm which has been used as a denial of service countermeasure technique in a number of systems. A hashcash stamp constitutes a proof-of-work which takes a set amount of work to compute for the sender. The recipient, and indeed anyone as it is publicly auditable, can verify received hashcash stamps efficiently. Hashcash was of course invented by Adam Back in 1997. At this point, it is most widely used as the Bitcoin mining function. But it was also used in the email as an email anti-spam tool, like the proof of work algorithm, and it would actually create stamps to attach to mail to an email, okay, to add a micro cost to sending mail to deter spamming. So the main use of the Hashcash stamp is a white listing hint to help Hashcash users avoid losing email due to content-based and blacklist-based anti-spam system. And the information, of course, comes from the actual website called hashcash.org. Okay, HASHCASH.org. That's a perfect source. The next article was published on the website weusecoins.com, and it's about the 7 network effects of Bitcoin as per Mr. Trace Mayer, of course, host of the Bitcoin Knowledge podcast, a podcast I will definitely recommend you. Okay, Trace Mayer, of course, invested quite famously in Armory, BitPay, and Kraken. It was published in 2015 at LaGuardia. The 7 network effects of Bitcoin are as follows. Number 1, of course, is speculation. As a novel, cryptographically backed asset class with the potential for appreciation and high volatility, Bitcoin is perfect for speculators with high tolerance, of course, for risk. Hodlers also understand the importance of holding and keeping and saving Bitcoin in your wallet. The simple fact that you're doing that, you're already participating into the enhancements of the network. So hodlers will become a very important part of the network. Merchant adoption, of course. Well, that hasn't really taken off, merchant adoption, but in some part of the world it did. So let's see. I think that's something that needs to be still worked on, merchant adoption. Consumer adoption. So consumer can use Bitcoin to save money at certain vendors, or also you could see in countries where if you want the local or national currency becomes less and less reliable, the flight for safety will be cryptocurrencies, and of course, and Bitcoin will be involved in that. So consumer adoption will definitely be very important, at least for those issues. Security, of course, merchant, consumer, and speculator adoption leads to a higher price and thus incentivize more miners to participate and secure the system. Okay, so the decentralized immutable transaction ledger also serves as a form of triple entry bookkeeping, wherein debits plus credits plus the network confirmations of transactions increase trust and accountability across the system. Number 5 will be developer mindshare. Okay, number 1 was speculation, number 2 was merchant adoption, number 3 was consumer adoption, of course, and number 4 is security, and number 5, developer mindshare. Bitcoin is a dumb and predictable network with simple rules and a publicly auditable code base. Okay, let's not forget it's open source, so it can be verifiable by anybody. It is fertile ground for the development of complicated algorithm, machine-to-machine payment protocol, smart contracts, and other tools. Okay, smart contracts will be coming up on the Bitcoin network at some point. Okay, expect that. Its decentralized nature allows for innovation without permission. So therefore, altcoins such as Litecoin or Ethereum pose little threat, as Bitcoin is already dominant as a store of value and as a medium of exchange in the cryptocurrency space. Financialization. Bitcoin will eat up progressively more of the market share of legacy banking institutions in areas such as remittance, micropayments, peer-to-peer lending, and the exchange of stocks and security. Old money risks dying out lest it embrace new protocols such as Bitcoin. And I will go also as far as saying that it will have to also kowtow to some sort of Satoshist approach, some sort of more ethical approach, because the whole point of this new system that is being created is that we do not replicate the mistakes of the past. The old system is dying because it did so many mistakes, because it did abuse so many people. So this new system has to be different from the old one to survive and thrive and get the trust from the people. So therefore, it has to be different. We have to reinvent finance in the 21st century. We cannot replicate the old model. So if you want, the Bitcoin global network will not be the copy and paste of the old system. Even if the old system or the old legacy system disappear in favor of the Bitcoin network. All right, it is not in order to replicate or to bring about the scene from the old system into the new one. Now, number 7, of course, is adoption as a world reserve currency. Okay, eventually all transactions will be settled on the blockchain, including house titles, stock purchase, car titles, and other monetary instruments and currencies. Okay, network effects 1 through 6 culminate in this final network effect, right? So let's go back. Number 1 was speculation. Number 2, merchant adoption. Number 3, consumer adoption. Number 4, security. Number 5, developer mind share. Number 6, financialization. And number 7, adoption as a world reserve currency. Now let's look at the network effect as far as Investopedia is concerned. We'll often come back to Investopedia if you notice. So www.investopedia.com, of course, and you look for Network Effect by Caroline Banton and Julius Mansa. Right, the key takeaways, of course, the network effect is a phenomenon whereby increased numbers of people or participants improve the value of a good or service. E-commerce sites such as Etsy and eBay and Amazon grew in popularity by accessing online network and attracting consumers to their product. Some companies cannot achieve critical mass, the number of users needed for the network effects to take hold, even with access to online and offline networks. Congestion is a negative network effect whereby too many users can slow a network down, reducing its utility and frustrating network members. And at some point, I would also say that it becomes a problem when the network is congested, because it leads or it makes you much more vulnerable now to potential attack from the outside. I am now on the Forbes website, famous business website, of course. And what do they say about it was published on January the 3rd, 2021, which is, of course, the anniversary dates of the creation of the first Bitcoin, of course. And not surprisingly, Vitalik, BUTERIN, founder of the Ethereum global network, had something to say about it. Bitcoin has exploded since October, climbing from its long-time $10,000 per Bitcoin support level to never before seen highs of almost 35,000. The Bitcoin price added over 300% through 2020. A rally that included a 50% pandemic crash in March. Meanwhile, Ethereum, the world's second largest cryptocurrency, has rallied even harder, soaring 600% over the last 12 months. Now, Ethereum co-founder Vitalik Buterin has revealed what he thinks is an underrated bull case for crypto. One of the more underrated bull case for cryptocurrencies that I have always believed is simply the fact that gold is lame. The younger generations realize that it's lame and that 9 trillion has to go somewhere. Buterin wrote in a recent 2020 summary blog post referring to the total value of the world's mined gold. He finishes, Vitalik Buterin, we are now in a world where blockchain and cryptocurrencies are well poised to play an important part, though for reasons much more complex than many people think and having as much to do with cultural forces as anything financial. Buterin wrote, arguing that public blockchain-based solutions will just keep quietly moving forwards and gaining actual adoption. So, there you had it. That's it for today. Let's be having you next week and look at the incentives that are keeping the miners glued to the network. Once upon a time, Fyodor Dostoevsky wrote Crime and Punishment. So next week, we will have Incentive and Punishment. Satoshi's Corner, Season 1, Episode 7. My name was Hermann Djoumessi, MA, CEO and founder of the ADMP Virtual Incubator. Do not forget to check all the links at the bottom of this podcast. Subscribe to ADMP newsletter on ADMP Incubator /Substack, SUBSTACK. Find ADMP on Twitter at Team ADMP or visit our website www.admpawards.biz. Subscribe to this podcast on Spreaker, Spotify, YouTube, Podchaser, Amazon, and all the good platforms you do subscribe to. Find and share our podcast on social, #ADMP, and smash the like button, please. #stay resilient, #Matrix out.